Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's jump into the story. Today's story follows a surprising turn of events involving a contract marriage that wasn't supposed to become anything more than a business deal. But when true feelings begin to surface, everything changes. Let's find out how things unfold. Emily stood in the elegant restaurant, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and nervousness. The soft hum of conversations filled the room, the clinking of silverware blending with the quiet background music. The lighting was warm, casting a soft glow over everything, giving the place an air of sophistication that felt entirely out of place for her. Her second-hand dress, the one she had bought from a thrift store, clung to her frame uncomfortably. The heels she was wearing, though a bit too large for her, squeaked as she shifted her weight. She hated how out of place she felt, but she had promised her best friend, Jenny, that she would go through with the blind date. She just needed to get through tonight. With a deep breath, Emily scanned the room, trying to locate her date. Her fingers brushed nervously over her purse strap as she muttered under her breath, "Table 7, table 7." Her pulse quickened as she spotted a well-dressed man sitting alone near the back. He had dark, neatly styled hair and was engrossed in his phone, looking like he belonged in this upscale restaurant unlike her, with her mismatched outfit and shoes showing signs of wear. Taking another deep breath, she walked over to his table, trying to steady her nerves. She pasted a smile on her face as she approached, but her voice betrayed her unease. "Hi, you must be Kevin." "I'm Emily." "Nice to meet you." The man, Liam, looked up in surprise. His expression was momentarily confused, his eyes scanning her face before they softened. Hi, Emily." His voice was calm, though his eyes were still a bit lost in thought. He didn't immediately correct her, as he would normally do, and instead, he gestured to the empty chair across from him. Emily sat down, still a little flustered. "I know this is a bit awkward. Blind dates are always kind of weird, right?" She laughed nervously, her hands fiddling with the edge of her napkin. "Jenny told me you might be a little shy, so don't worry. I can talk enough for both of us." Liam chuckled softly, looking at her with a faint smile. "Right, blind dates are something else," he replied, clearly amused but not offering much else. The tension between them was palpable, but it wasn't as uncomfortable as Emily had expected. He was quiet, but not unfriendly, and she found herself speaking more than usual to fill the silence. They talked about trivial things at first, her job as a waitress, his work in tech, though he didn't go into detail. She found herself feeling at ease with him, even though she had thought this would be an awkward disaster. Her stories about the ridiculousness of her day-to-day life at the diner made him laugh genuinely. His reserved nature made her more talkative, and she couldn't help but appreciate the calmness in his demeanor. As they chatted, she realized how easy it was to talk to him, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of connection with someone. She asked about his work, and he explained in vague terms that he was involved in tech, though he was careful not to reveal too much. His answers were simple, but the way he spoke made her believe he wasn't just a regular tech worker. She wasn't sure why, but she felt like there was more to him than met the eye. Emily had no idea that this simple misunderstanding, the mix-up of tables, would change everything. It wasn't until much later that she would discover Liam's true identity, and by then, her feelings for him would be deeper than she ever expected. But for now, as they continued to chat, the evening felt surprisingly normal. Maybe this blind date wouldn't be so bad after all. The evening continued on with a strange sense of ease between Emily and Liam. After the awkward start, they fell into a comfortable rhythm, chatting about everything and nothing at all. Emily laughed at her own awkwardness, relieved by the fact that Liam didn't seem to mind her nervous ramblings. She learned that he worked in tech, though he was vague about the detail. He spoke with a calmness that made her feel at ease, and she appreciated the gentleness in his eyes when he listened. It was nice to talk to someone who didn't judge her, even if she still felt out of place in this fancy restaurant. Her nerves slowly started to settle, and she even found herself smiling genuinely, something she hadn't done in a long time. But as the night wore on, she couldn't ignore the little voice in her head telling her that something wasn't quite right. Was she really just imagining things, or was there more to Liam than he was letting on? As they talked, Emily couldn't help but notice how effortlessly Liam carried himself. His posture was straight, his words measured, but there was something unspoken in the way he carried himself, as though he belonged in this world of luxury and high society. She felt it again, this sense that he was hiding something, not just because he was shy, but because he didn't want her to know who he really was. Liam, on the other hand, found himself more intrigued by Emily than he had anticipated. There was something about her genuine, unpretentious nature that struck a chord with him. While other women he met in his social circles were polished, calculated, and aware of his wealth, Emily was different. She was just herself. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but he felt a strange pull to her. At that moment, a text message notification flashed on his phone, pulling him out of his thoughts. He glanced at the screen and saw a message from his associate about a cancelled meeting. For a moment, he hesitated. He could have corrected her, told her the truth that he wasn't Kevin, but something in him made him stay silent. Instead of breaking the moment, he smiled softly and said, "Right, blind dates are something else." Emily laughed lightly, feeling the warmth spread through her chest. "Tell me about it. Jenny's been trying to set me up for months, but I've been too busy with work. I swear, I think she just wants me to find someone to talk to," she said, shaking her head in amusement. Liam nodded, his gaze never leaving her. For some reason, he couldn't help but want to know more about this woman who seemed so different from everyone else. As their conversation continued, Emily began to feel an odd sense of comfort. She hadn't expected to connect with someone this easily, especially not someone like Liam, but then again, she didn't know him as anything more than a tech worker, just like she hadn't known him to be Kevin at first. The ease with which they conversed felt natural, as if they had known each other for much longer than just a couple of hours. Emily couldn't help but notice how his quiet demeanor contrasted with her own more talkative nature. It wasn't that he was boring, quite the opposite. His silence had a way of drawing her in, making her feel like her words mattered, even when she didn't have much to say. Their meal came and went, and by the time dessert was served, Emily found herself enjoying the evening more than she had expected. She was still nervous, still aware of the differences between them, but for the first time, she felt like she wasn't just an outsider in a world of wealth and status. But then, as the night drew to a close, the uncomfortable truth slowly began to creep into her thoughts. Was she really just having a nice evening with a regular guy, or was there more to this than she realized? Was Liam really just a tech worker, or was he something more, something she was afraid to confront? Before she could stop herself, her phone buzzed with a new message. Her heart sank as she read it aloud, almost to herself. "Hey, Emily, where are you?" "I'm at table 7. A cold flush crept over her as she looked up at Liam, her stomach tightening with embarrassment. "Oh my God," she whispered, standing up abruptly. "I'm so sorry, I sat at the wrong table. This is so embarrassing." She turned quickly, grabbing her coat, but before she could leave, Liam stood too, blocking her way. "It's okay," Liam said softly, his voice laced with something she couldn't quite place. "Don't worry about it." He smiled gently, a knowing look in his eyes. "I'm just glad I got to talk to you." Her heart fluttered, and she stopped in her tracks, feeling a rush of warmth in her chest. Despite everything, despite the awkwardness of the mix-up, there was something in Liam's words that made her hesitate. As she looked at him, she realized she didn't want to leave, not just yet. There was something here, something she couldn't explain. And even if it was all based on a misunderstanding, she wasn't ready to walk away just yet. She smiled shyly, her cheeks flushed with a mix of nerves and excitement. "Well, if you're not Kevin, maybe I should stick around and make sure I don't make another mistake," she joked, her voice softer now, but with a lightness that wasn't there before. Liam's smile widened, and for a moment, Emily swore she saw something flicker in his eyes, something deeper than just a casual interest. But before she could analyze it further, Liam spoke again. I think I'd like that, he said, his tone warm but guarded. I don't think we're done talking yet. And with that, she found herself sitting back down at the table, not sure where this night would lead, but knowing it was a night she wouldn't soon forget. The next few days passed by in a blur, and Emily found herself thinking more and more about Liam. The connection they had made that night, the unexpected comfort she felt around him, lingered in her thoughts. But even as the memory of their conversation played over and over in her mind, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that she had missed something. Something important. It was early morning when she received the text. A message from an unknown number flashed on her phone screen, and her heart skipped a beat as she read it aloud to herself. Hi Emily, it's Liam. I know things got a little awkward the other night, but I'd like to see you again. Coffee sometime? Her stomach fluttered as she stared at the message. Part of her wanted to dismiss it after all, she had just assumed he was some tech guy. But another part of her, the part that couldn't stop thinking about their conversation, urged her to reply. After a moment of hesitation, she quickly typed a response. Coffee sounds nice. When and where? She hit send and held her breath, unsure of what to expect. Minutes later, another message popped up. How about tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the little cafe by the park? I'll be there. Emily smiled at the simplicity of it. She had never expected to be asked out again after a mistaken identity. But somehow, Liam had made her feel like their connection was real, not just a random occurrence. The next morning, Emily arrived at the cafe, her heart pounding in her chest. She tried to calm herself, but it was hard. She had never imagined that a simple coffee date could make her feel so nervous. As she stepped inside, her eyes scanned the room until they landed on Liam, sitting at a small table near the window. He was dressed casually in a sweater and jeans, looking every bit the part of a man who had nothing to hide. She walked over to him, trying to appear confident, though her hands were trembling slightly. Hi, she said, her voice a little shaky. Sorry I'm late. Liam looked up and smiled warmly, standing to greet her. You're not late at all, he said, his voice smooth and reassuring. I just got here. He gestured for her to sit, and as she did, she couldn't help but notice how at ease he seemed. It made her feel a little more comfortable, but the tension in her chest still remained. They ordered coffee, and as they waited, Liam began talking about his work, but this time, he offered more details, enough to pique Emily's curiosity. He spoke of his projects, the challenges he faced, but there was something different in the way he talked, something that hinted at a level of success beyond just tech work. As the conversation flowed, Emily found herself listening intently, asking questions, her usual nervousness fading. She could tell Liam was different from other men she had met. He wasn't just talking about business to impress her, he was genuinely passionate about what he did. So, Emily asked, taking a sip of her coffee, you've never told me exactly what you do. You're just in tech, right? Liam smiled at the question, his eyes twinkling. I guess I've been a little vague about that, he said. But to be honest, I usually don't share much about my work. It's not really something I like to discuss unless I have to. He paused for a moment, then leaned forward slightly. But I guess I can tell you a little more. I run a tech company. I'm the CEO of a startup. It's been a crazy ride, but it's been worth it. Emily's eyes widened in surprise, her heart skipped a beat. A CEO? The CEO of a startup? He hadn't mentioned anything about his success that night at the restaurant. It was almost like he had deliberately kept his identity hidden, not wanting her to know who he was. She blinked, trying to process what he had just said. Wait, you're a CEO? And you didn't say anything? She could hardly believe it. Liam chuckled softly, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, I know. I didn't want to make things weird. I mean, when you meet someone new, you don't always want them to be impressed by what you do for a living. I just wanted to talk to you like I was just some guy. He shrugged. Emily sat back in her chair, taking a moment to collect her thoughts. She felt conflicted. On one hand, she was impressed, but on the other, she was frustrated that he hadn't told her the truth right away. "So, all this time you've been what, pretending to be just some regular guy?" she asked, her voice a little sharper than she meant it to be. Liam seemed to pick up on her tone and immediately leaned forward, his expression serious. "I wasn't pretending. I just wanted to connect with you, Emily. I didn't want you to like me because of who I am or what I do. I wanted you to like me for who I am." His gaze was intense, and for a moment, Emily felt a flicker of something real between them. She wasn't sure what to say next. She had wanted to believe him, but now that the truth was out, everything felt a little different. She tried to ignore the pang of disappointment she felt, but it was hard to push away. "I get it," Emily said, trying to sound casual. "It just feels a little, I don't know, weird. But I get it." She took another sip of her coffee, forcing herself to smile. Liam didn't look convinced by her words, but he didn't press the issue. Instead, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small card, sliding it across the table to her. "I know this might sound forward, but if you're still interested in getting to know me, I'd like to offer you something. It's a position at my company, one I think you'd be perfect for." He paused, watching her carefully. "I know you might not think you're qualified, but I see potential in you. You have a lot to offer." His words were sincere, and for the first time, Emily felt like maybe just maybe there was more to Liam than just his wealth. Emily looked down at the card in front of her, her heart racing. She had no idea what to say. A job offer? From a billionaire CEO? This was a turn she hadn't expected. She took the card, turning it over in her hands. Her mind was racing, trying to process everything. This was more than just a coffee date now. This was a chance, perhaps her chancito step into a world she never thought she'd be a part of. For the first time that day, she smiled, genuinely. "I'll think about it," she said softly, feeling the weight of the moment. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew one thing: her life was about to change, whether she was ready for it or not. The days following their coffee meeting passed in a blur. Emily couldn't stop thinking about Liam and the surprising job offer he had given her. It was almost too good to be true, an opportunity to work for a tech company, something she never thought would be within her reach. But even as she considered it, a part of her felt conflicted. Was it really a good idea? Was she just being swept up in the excitement of meeting someone like him? She spent the next few days trying to focus on her daily life, her job at the diner, her bills, and the looming worry that she might not be able to make ends meet. But every time she thought about Liam's offer, she felt a surge of doubt. She wasn't qualified for a job at a tech company. She didn't have the experience, the connections, or the education to be a part of that world. Why would someone like him think she had potential? Still, she couldn't ignore the way he had looked at her when he made the offer. There was a sincerity in his eyes, a belief in her that she hadn't seen in a long time. It made her question everything she thought she knew about herself. Was she capable of more than she realized? Was this her chance to break free from the life she had always known? On the 5th day, Emily found herself standing in front of the glass doors of the tech company. She had done her research, read about Liam's startup, and found out that it was growing fast. The company was on the cutting edge of innovation, and the thought of being a part of it seemed both thrilling and terrifying. With a deep breath, she pushed open the door. The sleek, modern interior was a far cry from the diner where she worked. The polished floors, the glass walls, and the employees typing away at their computers made her feel small, out of place. But she wasn't here to feel comfortable. She was here to take a chance. A receptionist greeted her with a polite smile, and she explained that she had an appointment with Liam. The receptionist nodded and led her to a conference room. Emily's heart raced with every step, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. She had never been in a place like this before, never imagined that she would be sitting across from the CEO of a company, let alone someone who had seen potential in her. When Liam entered the room, he smiled warmly, his presence calming her immediate nerves. He gestured for her to sit, and as she did, she couldn't help but notice how confident and assured he was in his element. She felt a wave of gratitude for him, for believing in her when no one else had. "I'm glad you came," he said, his voice steady and reassuring. "I know this might be a big step for you, but I believe you can do this. I've been watching your progress, and you have a spark. That's what we need here, people who have passion, who are willing to work hard and grow. We don't need people with a perfect resume. We need people who are willing to learn, to adapt, and to push the limits." Emily listened carefully, feeling a mix of excitement and disbelief. Was this really happening? Could she really be a part of something this big? "I won't sugarcoat it," Liam continued, leaning forward slightly. "This job won't be easy. It's going to challenge you in ways you never imagined. But if you're up for it, you'll have a chance to grow, to be part of something that's bigger than any of us. And that's something worth fighting for." She felt her pulse quicken, her nerves slowly turning into something more, a sense of determination. This was her moment. She had spent so long doubting herself, but here was an opportunity to prove she could do more, to step into a world that she had always thought was beyond her reach. "I'm ready," Emily said quietly, her voice steady despite the nervous fluttering in her chest. "I'm ready to take that chance." Liam smiled, and something in his expression softened. It was the first time she had seen him look truly proud, not just confident, but proud of her. "I knew you'd say that," Liam replied with a grin. "Welcome to the team, Emily." As Emily left the conference room, her head was spinning, but there was a new feeling in her chest: hope. This was only the beginning, but for the first time in a long while, she believed she was capable of more. She had taken a leap of faith, and it felt like it was going to pay off in ways she couldn't even imagine. Her life was changing, and even though she didn't know exactly where this path would lead, she was ready for whatever came next. The following weeks passed in a whirlwind. Emily threw herself into her new role at Liam's company, working harder than she ever thought she could. The transition from her old life to this new world was a challenge, but she was determined to make it work. Every morning, she woke up early, leaving her small apartment with a sense of purpose, a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. Her job wasn't easy. There were days when the workload seemed impossible, and the fast pace of the office left her feeling overwhelmed. But every challenge she faced only made her more determined to prove herself. Liam checked in with her regularly, offering encouragement and advice whenever she needed it. His confidence in her never wavered, and it made her push herself even harder. She couldn't help but admire how he seemed to know just when to give her space and when to step in and help. It was clear that his success wasn't just about business, it was about knowing how to lead people and make them believe in themselves. At work, Emily began to gain the trust of her colleagues. They had initially been skeptical about her, the girl who had come out of nowhere, but as she worked harder, they began to see her potential. Her ideas were sharp, her work ethic unmatched, and soon she found herself becoming a vital part of the team. Her confidence began to grow with every small success, and the doubts she once had about herself slowly faded away. But despite her professional achievements, something inside her was changing. She found herself thinking about Liam more and more, and not just as her boss. He had become someone she admired, someone whose opinion mattered to her. There were moments when their eyes would meet across the room, and she would feel a flutter in her chest, a connection that went beyond work. One afternoon, after a particularly long meeting, Liam invited Emily to join him for coffee. It was the first time he had asked her to step away from the office for a break, and she agreed eagerly, though her heart skipped a beat at the thought of spending time with him outside of work. They walked to a small cafe nearby, the kind of place that wasn't too fancy but had a warmth to it that made Emily feel at ease. As they sat down, Liam looked at her with a calm smile. "I've been meaning to ask you," he said, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. "How have you been adjusting? I know it's been a lot, and I just want to make sure you're not burning yourself out." His tone was gentle, but there was a sincerity in his voice that made Emily pause. She hesitated for a moment, considering his words. "It's been tough," she admitted, "but I'm learning. Every day is a challenge, but I'm starting to feel like I belong here." She paused, then looked up at him, a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. I just never thought I'd be here, you know? In this kind of world. It feels unreal sometimes. But I'm grateful. Liam's eyes softened as he listened, and he nodded in understanding. You're doing great, Emily, he said, his voice warm and reassuring. I knew you would. You've got the right attitude, and that's what matters. But I also want to make sure you're taking care of yourself. You're not just here to work, you're here to grow, to build something meaningful. He leaned forward slightly, his gaze steady. I'm glad you're here. You've brought a lot to this company already, and I think you've got even more to give. His words hit her in a way she hadn't expected. She had always doubted herself, but hearing him say that made her believe, for the first time, that maybe she was capable of more. The conversation shifted to lighter topics after that, but Emily couldn't stop thinking about what Liam had said. She had always been so focused on proving herself, on trying to fit into a world she thought was beyond her, that she hadn't stopped to think about what she really wanted. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she had a future that wasn't defined by her past struggles but by the potential she had yet to explore. That evening, as she walked home, Emily felt a sense of peace settle over her. Her life had changed in ways she never thought possible, and while there were still challenges ahead, she was ready to face them. But there was also something else lingering in her thoughts, something about Liam that she couldn't quite place. She reached her apartment and sat down at her desk, her thoughts still on him. What was it about him that made her feel so at ease? And why did her heart race every time they talked? She couldn't deny it anymore, she was starting to care about him, and it wasn't just because of the job he had given her. Emily sighed and ran a hand through her hair. She hadn't expected to get this attached, to start thinking about him in ways that went beyond professional respect. But now, she couldn't help it. The line between the man she admired and the one she was beginning to feel something more for was becoming harder to define. As she closed her laptop for the night, she told herself that she would focus on her work, keep her head in the game. But deep down, she knew that the next chapter of her life wasn't just about career success. It was about the choices she would make and the person she was becoming. Weeks passed, and Emily found herself immersed in the fast-paced world of Liam's company. She was learning, growing, and slowly building the confidence she had once lacked. The challenges she faced each day no longer seemed so overwhelming, and with every new task, she proved to herself that she was capable of handling much more than she ever thought possible. But amid the whirlwind of work and personal growth, one thing had become increasingly clear: her feelings for Liam were growing stronger. They continued to spend more time together, mostly in the office, but every now and then, they would step away from the hustle and grab coffee or lunch. Their conversations had started to shift from work to more personal topics, and each time, Emily found herself drawn to him even more. There was something about his calm, steady presence that made her feel like she was safe, like she could trust him. He had a way of listening to her, really listening, that made her feel seen in a way no one else had ever done. One afternoon, after a particularly long meeting, Liam suggested they go for a walk around the park near the office. Emily agreed, knowing that the fresh air would be a welcome break from the stuffy conference room they had just left. As they walked side by side, Liam glanced at her, a soft smile on his lips. "You've been doing great, Emily," he said, his voice warm and reassuring. "I've noticed how much you've improved, how much you're learning. I'm really proud of you." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had always doubted herself, never quite believing that she was good enough. But hearing Liam say that made her feel like she was truly making a difference, not just in her work, but in her own life. "Thank you," she replied, her voice quiet but sincere. "That means a lot to me. I've never had someone believe in me like you do." Liam looked at her, his expression softening. "I don't just believe in you, Emily. I see potential in you. You're capable of so much more than you realize." The way he looked at her made her feel exposed, like he could see right through her, straight to the part of her that was still uncertain, still afraid. But instead of pushing him away, she felt herself leaning in, wanting more of the reassurance he was giving her. They continued walking, the quiet between them comfortable, but there was a tension building, something unspoken, something that Emily couldn't ignore. Her heart was racing, and as much as she tried to focus on the conversation, her mind kept drifting back to him, to the way he made her feel. Liam, sensing the shift, turned to her and asked, "How are you feeling, really? About everything?" Emily hesitated, her thoughts swirling. She had been so focused on her work, on proving herself, that she hadn't stopped to think about what she wanted, what she needed. But now, standing here with him, the question seemed so simple, and yet, so difficult to answer. "I don't know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I guess I'm just trying to figure it all out. Everything is changing so fast, and I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to screw this up." Liam stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression serious. "You're not going to mess anything up, Emily. You're doing just fine. But I think you need to start believing in yourself. You've already proven you're capable of handling everything here. The rest will follow." For a moment, they stood there, looking at each other, the weight of his words hanging in the air between them. Emily felt like her world was shifting, like something inside her was breaking free. But just as quickly as the moment had arrived, it was gone. Liam looked away first, his smile returning. "Come on," he said, gently nudging her arm. "Let's grab that coffee." They resumed walking, but something had changed. The air between them felt different, heavier, charged with something that neither of them could name. Emily felt a flutter in her chest, unsure of where things were headed, but certain that they were changing. She had always kept her distance from people, afraid of getting hurt, but with Liam, she felt like maybe, just maybe, it was worth the risk. That evening, as she lay in bed, Emily couldn't stop thinking about the walk, about the things Liam had said to her. His words had stuck with her, echoing in her mind. Maybe he was right. Maybe it was time for her to believe in herself the way he believed in her. But even as the doubt lingered, she knew one thing for sure: she was starting to feel something for Liam that went beyond admiration, beyond gratitude. She was falling for him, and she couldn't stop it. The next day, she walked into the office with a new sense of purpose. She wasn't just working for herself anymore. She was working for the future she was beginning to believe in. And maybe, just maybe, that future would include Liam in ways she hadn't yet imagined. The days after their walk felt like a blur. Emily had thrown herself into her work, driven by the sense of purpose Liam had ignited in her. But despite her growing confidence at the office, there was a lingering tension in the air every time Liam was around. Every glance, every casual touch, seemed to pull her closer to him in a way she wasn't ready to confront. She couldn't stop thinking about him, about how he made her feel like she mattered not just as an employee, but as a person. One afternoon, after a long day of meetings, Emily found herself once again in the conference room with Liam. He had been distant recently, his usual warm presence replaced by an air of professionalism that felt different. It wasn't until the meeting was over, and everyone else had left, that Liam finally turned to her with a look in his eyes that sent a shiver down her spine. "Emily," he said quietly, his voice deeper than usual, as he walked toward her. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Her heart skipped a beat. She nodded, her throat suddenly dry as he closed the door behind them. The tension in the room was palpable, the silence stretching between them as he took a seat across from her. "I've been meaning to have this conversation for a while now," Liam began, his gaze steady but unreadable. "Things have been complicated between us, and I think it's time we address it." His eyes searched hers, as if looking for something. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She had known something was different between them, but hearing him admit it out loud made everything feel so much more real. "I don't know what you mean," she said, her voice barely a whisper, though she felt every word like a punch in her chest. Liam leaned forward slightly, his voice soft but firm. "I think we both know what's been happening, Emily. The way we've been around each other. The way you've been feeling. And he paused, taking a breath. "I don't want you to think this is just about work." He glanced down at his hands before meeting her eyes again. Emily's pulse quickened. She was afraid to speak, afraid that saying the wrong thing would shatter whatever this was between them. She had no idea what he was going to say next, but she knew one thing for certain: she couldn't ignore the way her heart raced whenever he was near. "I care about you," Liam said suddenly, his voice slow but genuine. The words hung in the air, and Emily's breath caught. "Not just as a colleague, but as someone I want to be with." His gaze softened, and for the first time, Emily saw vulnerability in his eyes. She blinked, her mind spinning. Was he saying what she thought he was saying? Did he feel the same way about her as she did about him? Liam continued, his voice slightly trembling. "I've been trying to fight it. I told myself this was just about the work, that I was here to help you grow, but I've realized it's more than that. I've been holding back because of everything, because of the way things are between us at work, because I didn't want to complicate things." He took a deep breath. "But I can't ignore it anymore, Emily. I can't pretend I don't feel this way." Emily sat in stunned silence, her mind racing to process what Liam had just said. Was this real? Had he really just confessed his feelings for her? For a moment, she couldn't find the words, her heart and mind battling with the reality of the situation. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know you felt like that," she said, her hands trembling slightly. "I've been feeling the same way, Liam. But I didn't know if you were even interested. I didn't know how to deal with it." She laughed softly, a nervous, almost defeated sound. "It feels like everything is changing so fast, and I don't know what to do with it." Liam's expression softened, and he reached across the table, placing his hand over hers. "I know this isn't easy, Emily, and I don't expect you to have all the answers right now. But I need you to know how I feel. And I need you to understand that I want to be with you, not just because of the job, but because of who you are." His thumb gently stroked the back of her hand, sending a rush of warmth through her. Her heart fluttered as she looked at him, her emotions overwhelming her. She had never expected this, never expected to find herself here, standing at the edge of something that felt so uncertain, yet so right. Liam stood up slowly, walking around the table to stand beside her. "I don't know where this is going, Emily. But I'm willing to find out. I'm willing to take that chance, if you are." His voice was steady, but there was a tenderness to it that made her heart ache. She looked up at him, the weight of everything crashing down on her. Could she take that chance? Could she allow herself to step into a relationship with him, knowing all the risks involved, both professionally and personally? But as she looked into his eyes, she knew one thing for sure: she wanted this. She wanted him. Emily stood, her heart pounding in her chest, and nodded. "I'm ready," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, but with a certainty that she hadn't felt in a long time. "I want to see where this goes." Liam smiled, his eyes lighting up, and in that moment, everything changed. Their future was uncertain, but for the first time, Emily felt like she was ready to embrace it, to step into the unknown with Liam by her side. The days that followed their confession felt like a dream to Emily. She couldn't believe how quickly things had shifted. One minute, she was uncertain about everything: her place at the company, her future, and especially her feelings for Liam, and the next, she was stepping into a new chapter with him. Their relationship grew in subtle, quiet ways. They still kept things professional at the office, but there was a warmth between them that couldn't be ignored. It was in the way Liam would smile at her across the room, or how he always made time for small conversations that made her feel valued, not just as an employee but as a person. Emily threw herself into her work, now with a renewed sense of purpose. Every task, every project felt different when she knew she had Liam's support. He wasn't just her boss anymore, he was her partner, in both the professional and personal sense. She still faced challenges at work, but now she had someone she could lean on, someone who believed in her. It wasn't long before Liam asked her to accompany him to an important charity gala. It was a high-profile event, one where the company was being honored, and Emily couldn't deny how nervous she was about attending. It wasn't just the pressure of being at such an event, it was the thought of walking into a room full of people who would know she was with Liam, the CEO. But when Liam asked her, she saw the sincerity in his eyes and knew this was a step they needed to take, together. The night of the gala arrived, and Emily found herself standing beside Liam in a room full of well-dressed guests, the chatter around them a hum of excitement and anticipation. She felt out of place at first, her second-hand dress now replaced with a stunning gown Liam had arranged for her. But as the night wore on, she felt the confidence she had been building come to life. Liam's hand resting lightly on her back, guiding her through conversations with ease, made her feel like she belonged there like they both did. They moved from one conversation to the next, and Emily started to feel more comfortable. It was like Liam had an aura of calm around him, something that seemed to draw people in, and for the first time, Emily didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The evening was winding down when Liam excused himself for a moment, leaving Emily standing near the refreshments. She couldn't help but smile to herself, thinking about how far she had come since that first awkward meeting in the restaurant. She had gone from a waitress, unsure of herself, to a woman standing beside a man who believed in her and maybe, just maybe, believed in them as a couple. Just as she was lost in thought, Liam returned, and she felt a shift in the air between them. He had a look in his eyes, one that made her heart race as he took her hand gently in his. "Emily," he began, his voice low enough only for her to hear, "there's something I need to tell you." His tone was serious, and the shift from the light-hearted atmosphere around them caught her attention. She looked up at him, her heart pounding. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam smiled softly, a tender, almost vulnerable expression on his face. "I've been thinking about this moment for a while now," he said, "and I don't want to wait any longer." He paused for a moment, his eyes searching hers, and in that moment, Emily realized what was happening. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small box. The world seemed to stop around them as he opened it, revealing a sparkling ring. "Emily, I want to spend my life with you," he said, his voice steady but full of emotion. "Will you marry me?" Her breath caught in her throat. The question hung in the air, and for a moment, Emily couldn't find the words. Was this really happening? It felt like everything in her life had led to this moment, and yet, all she could do was look at the ring, then back at Liam, feeling a rush of emotions flood her heart. Finally, she found her voice. "Yes," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." She felt the weight of the ring slide onto her finger, and the moment was perfect, more perfect than she could have ever imagined. Liam's face lit up with a smile so genuine, so full of love, that Emily knew this was just the beginning of their future together. They embraced, and for the first time in her life, Emily felt like she had found her place, not just in the world of tech and success, but in a life that she never thought she could have. Together, they were ready to face whatever came next. The night continued, but Emily knew, without a doubt, that her life was about to change in ways she had only dreamed of. And this time, she was ready to embrace every moment of it. The following months passed by in a blur, as Emily and Liam navigated their new life together. Their engagement was the beginning of a new chapter, but it also marked the start of even more changes. Emily's confidence in herself continued to grow as she took on more responsibilities at the company. She was no longer just the new hire, she was a key player in the team, contributing ideas that were shaping the direction of the company. But it wasn't just her professional life that had transformed. Her relationship with Liam blossomed, evolving from a professional partnership to a deep, meaningful connection. They spent more time together, not just at work but outside of it too. Whether it was quiet dinners at home, spontaneous weekend trips, or late-night walks in the park, Emily couldn't help but feel that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. One evening, a few weeks before their wedding, Liam surprised Emily with a quiet evening at a small restaurant in the city. It was a place they had passed by countless times but never ventured into. Liam had arranged everything, from the reservation to the candlelit table set in the back corner. As they sat down, Emily smiled, realizing how far they had come since their first meeting. The uncertainty and awkwardness were long gone, replaced by a sense of certainty and love. "I was thinking," Liam said, his voice soft as he looked at her with a warm smile, "about how much has changed in such a short time. We've come so far, and I couldn't be more proud of us." He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I feel like we're just getting started." Emily squeezed his hand, feeling the weight of his words in the best possible way. I know, she said, her heart swelling. It's amazing how far we've come. And I can't imagine doing it with anyone else. Liam smiled, his eyes filled with love. Neither can I. The words were simple, but they carried so much meaning. Their wedding day arrived, and with it, a sense of peace that Emily had never known before. The ceremony was small, intimate, and filled with the people who meant the most to them. As she walked down the aisle toward Liam, her heart pounded with excitement and anticipation. This was the moment that would solidify everything: their love, their commitment to each other, and their shared future. When Emily reached Liam at the altar, he took her hand in his smile wide and genuine. The world seemed to fade around them as the officiant began the ceremony. For the first time in her life, Emily felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The nervousness, the doubts, everything that had once held her back melted away in the presence of Liam's unwavering support. As they exchanged vows, Emily looked into Liam's eyes, feeling every word she spoke. I promise to stand by you, to support you, and to love you for who you are just as you've loved me, she said, her voice steady with emotion. Liam's voice was equally strong as he spoke his vows, promising to cherish her, to be her partner through everything life threw their way. It was simple but powerful, and Emily knew in that moment that they were a team, ready to take on the world together. The reception was filled with laughter, dancing, and joy. They celebrated with their friends and family, enjoying the love and support that surrounded them. As the night came to a close, Emily and Liam shared a quiet moment alone on the balcony, looking out over the city. I never thought I'd be here, Emily said, her voice soft. I never thought I'd find someone like you. Liam turned to her, his eyes soft. I know, he said. But here we are. And I couldn't be happier. He pulled her into a gentle embrace, and as they stood there, looking at the lights below, Emily knew that this was just the beginning of the rest of their lives. Their journey was far from over, but they had each other, and that was enough. Together, they would face whatever came next, hand in hand, with the love and support they had built together. And as they walked away from their wedding reception, ready to begin their new life, Emily felt a deep sense of peace and excitement. The future was bright, and for the first time, she felt like anything was possible. As the years passed, their love only grew stronger. They built a life full of memories, faced challenges together, and supported each other through every high and low. And through it all, Emily never forgot how it all started with a simple mistake, a blind date, and the man who saw potential in her when she couldn't see it in herself. In the end, their love story was one of growth, support, and unwavering belief in each other. And as they stood together, hand in hand, looking forward to the future, Emily knew that no matter what life threw their way, they would face it together forever.